Welcome, friends, to Wisdom and Wealth, where we explore the timeless truths that can enrich your life, regardless of your age or stage. We understand that navigating life's complexities, especially after 40, requires a blend of practical knowledge and inner peace. That's why we're dedicated to bringing you content that nourishes both your mind and your spirit. In this video, we'll delve into 10 carefully selected Buddhist stories, each a gem of wisdom designed to relax your mind and provide clarity in the midst of life's inevitable chaos. But before we begin this journey, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. By doing so, you'll join a community of like-minded individuals seeking a deeper understanding of themselves and the world around them. Your support helps us continue to create content that resonates with you, offering insights that can transform your perspective and enhance your well-being. Thank you for being here, and let's embark on this enlightening exploration together. These stories have been passed down for centuries, offering guidance and solace to countless individuals seeking inner harmony. The teachings of the Buddha and the wisdom of Zen masters provide timeless insights into navigating the challenges of life with grace and equanimity. These stories are not just narratives, they are pathways to mindfulness, compassion, and understanding, powerful tools that can help quiet the incessant chatter of the mind and bring clarity to the soul. So, take a deep breath, allow your thoughts to settle, and prepare to journey through the wisdom of the ages. Let these stories of peace and enlightenment wash over you, helping you find stillness and centeredness amidst the storms of life. Our first story is the story of the empty boat. Once upon a time, there was a man who found immense joy in rowing his boat on a tranquil river. He loved the feeling of drifting along the water, soaking in the serenity of nature and the solitude it offered. It was his sanctuary, a place where he could escape the pressures of daily life and reconnect with his inner self. One evening, as the sun began its descent, painting the world in hues of gold and amber, he decided to embark on a peaceful journey. As he paddled gently, savoring the tranquility that surrounded him, he noticed another boat heading directly toward him. At first, he called out politely, "Be careful." But the boat remained on its collision course, seemingly oblivious to his warnings. Growing increasingly frustrated, he began shouting, "Move aside. You're going to crash into me." His voice echoed across the still water, laced with anger and impatience. But still, the boat continued its relentless approach. Finally, as the two boats collided with a gentle bump, he was ready to unleash his pent-up frustration. But as he looked closely, he realized something astonishing: the boat was empty. There was no one inside, it was simply drifting aimlessly, carried along by the currents of the river. In that instant, the man's anger dissipated like mist in the morning sun. He sat there, feeling foolish and embarrassed for having yelled at an empty vessel. He realized the absurdity of his reaction, how his emotions had been triggered by something that held no intentionality. The lesson? The story of the empty boat reminds us that a significant portion of our suffering stems from our own interpretations and reactions to events. It's a powerful metaphor for how our egos can inflate situations, causing us to react negatively to circumstances that have no inherent malice. If we can learn to recognize the empty boats in our lives, those situations or interactions that are devoid of personal intent, we can let go of unnecessary emotions and cultivate peace within our hearts. This story underscores the importance of releasing the ego, of not taking things personally, and of allowing ourselves to navigate the river of life with greater calm, clarity, and understanding. This simple tale encourages us to examine our reactions, to question whether our anger is truly justified, or whether we are simply projecting our own insecurities and frustrations onto innocent situations. By doing so, we can foster inner peace and develop a more balanced perspective on the world around us. Before we continue with the video, let me remind you again that liking or subscribing to our Buddhist Doctrine channel helps in the expansion of the channel, and makes our hard work and efforts all worth it. Our next story is The Monk and the Tiger. Once upon a time, nestled deep within a quiet mountain forest, there was a peaceful monastery. Within its walls lived a wise and gentle monk. Every day, he would embark on long, meditative walks through the surrounding woods, immersing himself in the beauty of nature and contemplating the profound teachings of the Buddha. He found solace in the solitude of the forest, a place where he could connect deeply with the present moment and the world around him. One day, during his walk along a narrow mountain path, the monk was suddenly startled by a loud, terrifying sound, the roar of a tiger echoing through the trees. He froze momentarily, his heart pounding in his chest. Turning, he saw a large, fierce tiger charging toward him through the dense forest underbrush. The tiger's eyes were locked on him, its powerful body moving with terrifying speed. The monk's first instinct was to flee, and he did. He sprinted down the path, his robes billowing behind him, as the tiger drew closer and closer. Desperate to escape, he spotted a vine hanging down the side of a cliff. Without hesitation, he grabbed the vine and began to climb down, hoping to find safety below. As he descended the cliff, clinging tightly to the vine, he glanced down and his heart sank. Below him, another tiger was pacing back and forth at the bottom of the cliff, waiting for him to fall. He was trapped, there was no way up and no way down. The monk paused, dangling precariously from the vine, with one tiger above and another below. His situation seemed utterly hopeless. But then, something unexpected caught his eye. Growing out of the cliffside, just within reach, was a small wild strawberry plant. On the plant was a single, ripe, red strawberry. In that moment, the monk stopped thinking about the tigers, his fear, and his predicament. Instead, he reached out with one hand, carefully plucked the strawberry, and put it into his mouth. He bit into the fruit, savoring its sweetness. The taste was exquisite, sweet, fresh, and perfect. For that brief moment, all that existed was the joy of the strawberry's flavor. Despite the imminent danger surrounding him, the monk found peace in that single, mindful moment. He had accepted that he couldn't change his circumstances, but he could still fully experience the present. The monk smiled, knowing that this fleeting taste of sweetness was a reminder of life's beauty, even in the most precarious of situations. The lesson? The story of the monk and the tiger offers a profound lesson about mindfulness and the importance of being present in the moment. Life often presents us with challenging and seemingly impossible situations, much like the monk trapped between two tigers. But even in those moments, there is always something to be grateful for, some small piece of joy that we can savor. The monk's ability to focus on the strawberry, despite the danger surrounding him, demonstrates that we can find peace and contentment by fully immersing ourselves in the present moment, instead of dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. So rather than being overwhelmed by the tigers in our lives, we can choose to focus on the beauty and sweetness of life, right here, right now. This story encourages us to embrace mindfulness and to appreciate the simple pleasures that life offers, no matter what challenges we face. It is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always light to be found, if we only take the time to look for it. By practicing mindfulness, we can cultivate a sense of inner peace and resilience that will help us navigate the storms of life with greater grace and equanimity. And now we will be moving on to the next story. Before that, I just want to remind you once again that this channel, Buddhist Doctrine, needs your love and support, so that we can continue to bring you more engaging content. Please subscribe or leave a like, as it helps the channel grow. In addition, it's 100% free. Our next story is The Two Arrows. One day, the Buddha was sitting with his disciples in a peaceful forest clearing. The trees swayed gently in the breeze, and the sound of birds filled the air. The Buddha often taught his disciples about the nature of suffering and the path to enlightenment. On this particular day, a troubled disciple approached him with a question. "Master," the disciple said, bowing before the Buddha, "I do not understand why we suffer so much in this life. Pain seems to follow us wherever we go. Why is this so, and how can we find peace amidst so much suffering?" The Buddha gazed at the disciple with kindness and understanding. He saw the confusion and frustration in his student's eyes and knew that this was a question many of his followers pondered. "Let me explain," the Buddha said gently. "Imagine that a person is struck by an arrow. This arrow causes pain, and that pain is inevitable. This is the first arrow. The disciples nodded, understanding that the first arrow symbolized the inevitable difficulties of life, the physical pain of illness, injury, or loss. But now, the Buddha continued, imagine that after being struck by the first arrow, the person is then struck by a second arrow. This second arrow does not come from outside, it is created by the mind. It is the anger, fear, frustration, or sorrow that follows the pain. This is the second arrow. The Buddha paused, letting his words sink in. You see, he said, while the first arrow is unavoidable, the second arrow is optional. The first arrow represents the natural pain we all experience in life, the challenges and hardships we cannot escape. But the second arrow, the suffering caused by how we react to that pain, is something we can choose to avoid. The disciple listened intently as the Buddha explained that when we experience physical or emotional pain, the first arrow, we often make it worse by adding a second layer of suffering with our mental reactions. We become angry, resentful, or anxious, and these emotions deepen the wound. Instead of accepting the pain, we resist it, and in doing so, we increase our suffering. The Buddha looked around at all his disciples and continued, when we are struck by the first arrow, we must recognize it for what it is, a natural part of life. But we must also recognize the second arrow. It is the arrow we create ourselves. Through mindfulness and understanding, we can choose not to let the second arrow pierce us. The disciple, beginning to understand, asked, Master, how can we avoid the second arrow? How can we prevent our minds from adding to our suffering? The Buddha smiled. By practicing mindfulness, we can observe our thoughts and emotions without becoming attached to them. When we feel pain, we can acknowledge it without judgment. We can accept that pain is part of life, but we do not need to dwell on it or create more suffering through resistance or negative thoughts. In this way, we can stop the second arrow before it strikes. The disciple bowed again, grateful for the Buddha's wisdom. He realized that while pain in life was inevitable, suffering was often something he had been creating for himself. By choosing to respond to pain with awareness and acceptance, he could find peace even in difficult circumstances. What is the lesson in all this? The story of the two arrows teaches us a valuable distinction between pain and suffering. The first arrow, representing unavoidable pain, is something that all of us experience in life, whether it be physical discomfort, emotional hurt, or loss. These challenges are simply a part of the human experience. However, the second arrow symbolizes the suffering caused by our mental and emotional reactions, and is something that we create ourselves. When we react to pain with fear, anger, or resentment, we only deepen our own suffering. The Buddha's teaching encourages us to practice mindfulness and acceptance. We cannot control the first arrow, but we can control the second arrow. By responding to pain with awareness, understanding, and compassion, we can reduce our suffering and find peace, even in the face of life's inevitable challenges. But before we continue with the final stories, please consider liking or subscribing to the Buddhist Doctrine channel. It would help the channel out a lot. Now, let's continue with the other stories that soothe the mind, calm the heart, and bring light to your everyday life. And that concludes the first part of this video. There's still much more to come, so please stay tuned. The next 6 Buddhist stories are just as interesting. We'll explore themes of impermanence, generosity, compassion, and non-attachment, offering practical insights for navigating the complexities of life with greater wisdom and inner peace. And thanks for watching.